Hey loves, welcome back to the channel. This is part 2 of the cowl neck dress tutorial, which is the stitching process. So do well to watch part 1 if you haven't, and that is the pattern making process. This is the fabric I'll be using. It's a poly satin and I have 3 meters of this, which I wouldn't be using all of it, but just to make sure I have enough fabric. And I also got myself a matching thread. So without any further ado, let's get right into the stitching process. Before I get to the stitching process, I want to address this here because this was a question that was asked a lot, that why didn't I add a zip extension or a zipper to the dress, but I was able to do it. So instead of cutting it like on the straight grain like this, like we always do, remember to cut it on the bias or off grain. So like you see here, I went ahead and folded my fabric like you see, diagonal or on bias or off the grain, and then I laid my pattern on it. I put some heavy object on it so that it doesn't move whilst I am cutting. So I went ahead and also pinned the corners so that they wouldn't lift whilst I'm cutting. You know, I want to do my thing so perfect, so that is why I am doing this. You can leave it out if you want. So when that is done, I'll go ahead and cut out my pattern. And the trick is to remember to cut it on the bias or off the grain. That is why I indicated on the paper for you to see. And also remember, this is an updated video because a lot of you asked me in the previous video why there wasn't no zipper on the dress, but I was able to wear it. So remember, if you cut it on the bias or off grain, the fabric stretches. So now I have the front pattern cut out. I will go ahead and fold the fabric again like this, V like that, instead of the straight edge. You see how I am folding it, so I would make sure it's folded perfectly and then lay my back pattern again. So I'll go ahead again, make sure everything is straight, and then put on my heavy objects, and then go ahead and pin the corners so that they don't lift whilst I am cutting. So I'll go ahead and also cut the back pattern. And I am doing this on the floor so that the camera can really capture it for you to see. I would have done it on the table, but I wanted you to see exactly what I am doing, because with the previous one I did cut it on the table, which a lot of you didn't see what I was really doing. So this is an updated video, as I said. So now we have the front and back patterns. This is the back pattern, like you see the diagonal line, so that is the green line, and that tells her to cut the fabric on diagonal grain. Remember that. So you can see that the fabric has stretch. And here is the front pattern. So I will go ahead and notch where the fold line is, so that when we take away the pattern, we will be able to indicate where we would fold the lining over. So I would notch it. Make sure not to cut a big not to make a big cut. So now that the pattern is away, here is the full view of the front pattern, and I would fold in the, you see that it also has stretch. Now I will use the notch to fold in the lining, and you can see how the cowl effect is already coming out. I'm really excited to make this dress. So what I'm doing now is to cut straps for the shoulders, and I'll be cutting them on bias. So what I am doing now is to just straighten the edge of this fabric so that I will have a straight edge to cut the straps. So once that is done, I have my straight edge. Now I will measure 1.5 inches. You can measure 1.25 or as big as you want. And by the time I would fold this in and stitch everything, I would have about 1/4 inch for each strap. So the total length of each strap for me is 15.5, and then I would add 1 inch, which is 1/2 inch on both sides. So the final length will be 16.5. So after stitching, I would still have my 15.5, if you understand it. So I will cut this for the shoulders and also another one to finish the back. So I'm just measuring if I have enough for both straps. So like I already said, I will need a total length of 16.5 inches, which I have enough. So I would go ahead and cut another one to finish the back off camera. So what I'm doing now is to first stitch the straps, because we have to attach that first of all before we do all the sewing. So now that the strap is done, and I also finished the inner part of the cowl, or the lining part. As you can see, I just folded in and stitched it. You can also just use your serger or zigzag stitch to finish it. So what I'm going to do now is to turn my loop or my strap inside out with my loop turner. It's so much easy to use the loop turner. And once that is done, I'll measure the length of my straps and cut it out. So I would cut 2 pieces out. I'm just making sure both of them are of equal length. So this is our straps for the shoulders. So what I'm going to do now is to attach the straps to the corners of the cowl. You remember where we did the notches? That is where we'll be attaching the straps. So fold the upper part of the dress and then attach the straps to the corners. And then pin the armhole together. So remember, what you do to this side, you do the same to the other side, unless you're making an asymmetric dress that you do different things to other side. Now I'll go ahead and stitch the armhole and where the straps has been attached. So this is how it looks once it has been stitched, and I'll go ahead and trim down the allowance so that you know it's a curve, and then I'll also notch so that it would lay flat once it has been turned inside out. So once this has been done, I'll go to my machine and do an understitch so that the lining part would lay really flat and nice. So I went ahead and did that, and this is how it looks. And remember to press or iron it so that it looks nice. Remember, ironing is a really essential part when it comes to sewing. So now this is the back pattern. I just pinned that part so it doesn't move. You know how satin can be slippery. So what I'm going to do now is to indicate where I would be attaching the straps. So I went in 2.5 inches from the center back, and this is how it looks like. I made a notch so that I would know where I will place the straps. So now grab the front pattern and attach the straps to the notches you made on the back pattern, and make sure the straps are straight and not turned. And once it has been pinned, what I would do is to take the other strap I cut, fold it in half, and attach it to the raw edge of the back neck. So this is to finish that raw edge. And remember, it is curved, that is why I cut the facing on bias. And once that is pinned, I will take it to the machine and stitch 1/4 of an inch. So now that it has been stitched, this is how it looks like, and I'll go ahead and trim down the allowance. Once the allowance has been stitched, I will take it to the machine and do a top stitch or an under stitch so that it will lay flat. So now that the under stitch has been made, I would now fold the facing to the wrong side of the fabric like you see, and then stitch close to the edge. If you have faced something before, it's the same process, but this one is a really small facing. So I just cut away the extra fabric, and now I will pin the sides of both the front and the back together, but I'll be using the lining in the armhole area to finish the back side there, as you see. So once that has been pinned, I'll go ahead and pin the rest of the sides. I know a lot of you know this technique, when you use the facing to cover the other side or the back side of the garment so that it finishes so really nice. So once everything has been pinned, I will take it to the sewing machine and then stitch 1/2 of an inch allowance. This is how it looks once it has been stitched, and this is how the armhole looks with the technique I used. I've used this technique in a lot of my sewing videos, so yeah, I believe by now a lot of you know how to do it. So what I'm going to do now is to use my serger to serge the side seam and also the hem. You can see that the video is shaking a bit because the serger is kind of like shaking whilst I'm using it. So you can also use matching thread, but I was a bit lazy to change all the threads all over again, so I just used the white thread to do the serging. And once everything has been serged, this is how it looks like. What I'm going to do next is to just fold in the hem and stitch. And this is how it looks now. The dress is done, and make sure to iron the hem and the side seam so that they lay flat and nice. I also went ahead and make a small belt for this dress. I really love belts when it comes to wearing dresses, so this is very optional. You can do it if you want. So this is the dress, this is the back side, and now let's see how it looks on. This is how the dress looks on, and I love how the cowl effect came out. Mine was a little tight, and that is how I want it, so you can add ease to yours if you want. This is the back side. So if you love this tutorial, make sure to like and comment and share with your friends so that they would also know how to make a very beautiful cowl neck dress for any event. So you can wear this to a party, a wedding, or even, you can wear it everywhere. It's really classy and a very beautiful dress design. Thank you for watching, and see you in my next video.